He is my favorite iteration of Bond, and I think it's because of the complexity he's brought to the character and the vulnerability and the sort of the brutal sort of potential for violence. I think it's an interesting combination there, and to be able to take those skills and apply them now to now he has wisdom, right? He has all this experience he's brought in over the last 15 years of doing these films, not only on the filmmaking side, but also on the character side. And there's a lot to play with there in terms of how interesting and how multifaceted of character he is now. I liked the idea of a villain who, when they look at themselves in the mirror, doesn't see them as a villain, doesn't see themselves as a villain. They see themselves as a savior, as someone who could lead humanity into its next phase. And I thought Rami, with all his complexity and his intelligence, and you can see that intelligence in his face and his eyes and the way he thinks, it's there. And he was the perfect person to sort of take those ideas for that character and run with it. So those were our initial conversations, and we had a sort of dialogue going back and forth, and as the character sort of came to be what it was, he was a part of that the whole way. I'm very excited with it. They're allies, they're capable people, individuals in their own right, who are completely equal to him in terms of what they're offering for the mission they're on. For me, it was essential to get the characters right. So that was the first step. Really dig into Bond. Where is he? What's it like being retired for 5 years? What does it feel like having seen all he's seen, all the trauma, everything, and to sit with that unprocessed in a sort of retired bubble, right? And then be drawn back in the world and let him use those tools that he's so good at again to save the world. And then who are all the people that surrounding him? Who are the people who are going to affect that journey? I think the things you see in this Bond film, which people expect but are also very excited to see, are the cars, what the cars do, the gadgets, what's Q going to give him to save the world this time, what are the things we've never seen before, what are the impossible situations that he somehow finds his way out of. Their creative vision and the way they work together, because I think that is key. Costume and production design, they're not two separate elements. They're all on screen together. And Sudarat, brought so much knowledge and expertise with her team, but also just sort of tireless passion, trying to find the right clothing for characters we've seen many times before, but still make that little difference in there. But also for the new characters and the sort of the larger masses of soldiers and bad guys and villains, to give them a look that felt fresh and new. Barbara mentioned early on the idea of going back to Jamaica for this story. I don't want to out her age to anyone publicly, but I guess I will by saying this. She was a baby when they were making Dr. No, the 1-year-old baby. So I think she's very much tied not only to the first Bond film, but I think for her, being there as a child, where Bond as a character was created by Fleming, GoldenEye was a short drive away from where we shot this sequence in Port Antonio. So that meant a lot to her, I think, to especially if this is going to be Daniel's last outing, to go somewhere like that has such, I think, meaning for the character. In this case, it's kind of where Bond has gone to retire. So in some ways, he started there, and what we're saying was his plan was to end there until the dangers of the world draw him back out again. I wanted to add a few new things to it because we obviously saw the guns working in Skyfall, and then the car itself gets destroyed. Spectre gets rebuilt, but we don't know what's inside it at the end of Spectre. We just know they're heading off in the sunset with it. So we kind of had carte blanche to sort of reimagine what's in the car and what it could do, and to try to do it tastefully. Obviously, we want it to fit within the narrative and the emotional story we're telling at the beginning of the film, and not feel like suddenly we're veering into sci-fi gadget world, but also have a little bit of fun with it too. So there's a few new surprises in there. Léa Seydoux is also an amazing actress and an actress that I've wanted to work with for a while. I think she's incredibly fascinating to watch on screen. The internal life is really strong. And so in this film, I wanted to give that a chance to breathe. I wanted to see her in all her layers, be firing at once. And part of that was bringing in some of her backstory, bringing in a sense of understanding, for the audience at least, of who she is and why she's become that person. And then by understanding that, understanding why, then getting it, why she's the right person for Bond, why Vesper Berlin wasn't maybe the right person for Bond, even though there was that great love story there. But she is the yin to his yang. And the potential there, because of her backstory, it's almost like if you just drew from all the little snippets you had from Mr. White in the earlier films to what Madeline said in Spectre, there was a lot to play with to bring to the screen again and bring to life some of the stories we've heard, and then glimpse all deeper truths, things that we didn't actually hear in those stories that are seeds to the ultimate danger in the film.